give you a chance to hear from our most esteemed influencers and selection consultants here to talk to you a little bit about navigating the selection process of ERP. My name is Lisa Pope. I'm president of Epicor. Really happy to get a chance to address you guys today. And I think one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is making sure that we have a lot of neutral industry experts that participate in our events. So we're always getting a good balance between not just what's happening with Epicor, but what's happening in the industry. Getting back to the comments I made at the opening today around really guiding you to make the very best decision process that you can. So our influencer panel, let's just take a quick minute and introduce ourselves. So Eric, I'll start with you.
Hi, thanks for having us, Lisa. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting, and we're an independent and tech-agnostic consulting firm that helps clients with software selection and digital strategy, as well as implementation planning and the actual implementation itself.
Thanks, Lisa. Nice to see you. I'm Jonathan Gross, the Managing Director of Pemico Consulting, and we do a lot of the same stuff as Third Stage and Panorama.
My name is Alan Salton. I'm the Managing Director at Panorama Consulting, and exactly what John and what Eric said, that's what we do. So we're independent agnostic, ERP selection, to business transformation, and some AI stuff too.
And to confuse us all, the slide does not match the order we're sitting in. So in case you're looking at that, whoops, we failed the first test, guys. All right, so we heard Vaibhav this morning talk a lot about AI, and I think it is sort of, the topic of the day. But as you're going through an ERP selection, clearly AI is going to be an important piece potentially of how you look and evaluate those products. So I thought what I would do is just maybe start off a little bit about how our Prism announcement, which is our AI offering, will potentially influence, your clients, this team that is here with us today, the market, and also Epicor's perception. So Alan, let's start with you.
We have a handful of clients who are really interested in AI. As a matter of fact, we have a client who came to us and said, I hope you're going to talk about AI. It's an aerospace and defense manufacturer. And they've got a whole checklist of things they want to investigate. They want to talk about R&D and product design and generative AI and how that helps. They want to talk about things a little more practical and short term, like predictive maintenance, and something that is actually been deployed recently at this company. But also we talk about inventory optimization, supply chain planning, a lot with procurement. So we're in a time now where a lot of companies have suffered because we're in an inflationary period. So trying to do procurements, trying to do long-term procurement at this time, they're looking for some opportunities to ensure they're going to be successful and profitable. And AI can help them with things like supplier performance, long-term contract negotiations. So we're beginning to see the manufacturing companies talk about the application. Priority becomes important because they certainly can't do all of that. Training and employee empowerment is super important. So these are the things that we see currently with AI.
All right, and Eric, how do you think this will change sort of Epicor's perception in the market, or tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of, the ERP landscape and AI?
Yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity for Epicor and Epicor customers to lay out a roadmap and a strategy for how they're going to deploy AI. Because it's one thing to say we've got Prism, we've got these AI tools, and sort of throw it out there and hope for the best and see if people start to use it. So I think Prism's great, especially if you can combine it with some clear articulation and definition of what your business processes are going to be going forward, so that you can use that as sort of your blueprint or roadmap for how you'll actually use AI. And it also gives you a chance to take incremental steps towards a broader digital transformation, so you don't necessarily have to go through this big, high-risk, high-cost endeavor. It could be a more incremental approach. And I think that's the beauty of where we're at with AI, is it's giving us a lot of opportunity for low-hanging fruit to do things more incrementally.
And John, are you seeing AI really start to evolve with some of your current clients as well, where maybe they're now saying, okay, maybe we got ERP in, or we've made our ERP selection, and now we're going to revisit maybe how AI could accelerate or change the way we're doing business?
Yeah, absolutely. And so if we think of where AI is and where it's headed, we're really early stages on the hype cycle. And so the use cases today are in some ways kind of unsexy, right? Generate a product description for me. but super valuable. So if you think about how much time it takes an engineering department to write product descriptions the same way consistently based on the same attributes, it's a lot of work. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there. Things like AI agents that you can deploy that are like smart robots, like robotic process automation that don't throw the same errors that you'd otherwise get because they learn. Those are real practical use cases, and we'll see where things go. And there's huge value for companies that have deployed ERP who are looking to kind of layer it on. And as Eric and Alan pointed out, understand your use case, understand where the pain points are in the business, where perhaps the inefficiency is. And I think it's incumbent on you as you go through your evaluation processes to understand what the tools that are on the marketplace can do and match those up with where your business is and figure out where the opportunities lie.
I think one of the things that's interesting about AI is as much as there is so much positivity about it, there is also a lot of concern. So I've gone off script here. We'll see how they do. I always like to throw in a fun question. So the negative aspects of AI, right? What are the biggest concerns that maybe you've had clients raise or customers raise that are either unfounded or founded, and any thoughts on mitigating those?
Well, one thing that we see, and we actually saw this maybe on a smaller scale back when, 25 years ago when I started my career, when companies were still using a lot of spreadsheets and manual paper processes and moving to ERP for the first time, is even now with modern ERP systems, to jump from a semi-modern ERP system to an AI-driven system, there's a lot of opportunity. It's really exciting. A lot of us have already gotten our arms around ChatGPT and AI in general. We've been using AI, whether we know it or not, with Facebook and Amazon and our e-commerce experiences. So AI has been around, but now it's finally in the mainstream and at the forefront. People are excited about it, but I think where the tricky part is going to be is when a lot of people here, I imagine, have some people that have survived through heroics within their organization. They powered through all the crappy processes and the crappy technologies they've had, but that, they have those key people that just sort of power through. They have all this tribal knowledge, and they themselves are able to sort of hold it all together. If AI comes in now and automates that and makes us smarter as people, that's better for the business. And even if I'm a good person and I want the best for the business, I'm going to be threatened by the fact that now suddenly my heroics, my tribal knowledge aren't as important because AI can replace some of that. It's not necessarily going to replace my job, but it might replace my sense or my perception of self-worth. And that's where change resistance comes in, and you've got to be able to overcome that. So I think that's the biggest challenge, in my opinion, with AI.
Yeah, so we've got this other practice, this technology law practice at our firm, and I'm a practicing lawyer. And so one of the things you need to think about is where the data's going, how the model's training on it, and where it's perhaps being used outside of the four walls of your tenant. And so as your organization kind of dabbles in AI, it's really important to think about what the rights and obligations are with respect to the data, who ultimately owns it, and what you can do with it. So that's kind of one key area to look at. And think about establishing guardrails in your organization as to who can just go and start testing AI systems. The other thing is around governance and establishing strong corporate governance model around what to study, how to study it, and how to use it. So one of the things that ERP is a great catalyst for is it's breaking down silos, functional silos that live between departments. I'm going to suggest that you kind of use the same approach when it comes to AI. Build a governance team that involves legal, technology, and operations, and establish some policies and procedures around it.
I think there's a lot of fear that AI is going to lead to the demise of administration in organizations. I mean, it was not that long ago when people said automation was going to decimate manufacturing jobs, but in April, there's 600,000 manufacturing jobs open. And that's because while some jobs did get replaced, a lot of new jobs got created. And instead of automation, it became augmenting their jobs. And that's what's going to happen here, getting away from doing some of the more mundane, repetitive stuff and start doing stuff that's about insight, better decision making. So I think there's a big fear of AI replacing people. That's not necessarily going to be the case. The other thing is, and I will say this, having worked on just 2 AI projects, AI is a hungry machine. It wants data, and then it wants more data. And it is, once you have a model, you have to refeed the model, you have to retrain the model. So, especially my aerospace client, they took some of their best analysts and they took them out of their job and said, You're going to be AI data people now. And that's going to be their job, is to be able to look at old data, new data, currently, constantly updated and feed it into the models.
I think that's a really good point. I know Vaibhav talked about one of our Epicor's focus and philosophy around our vertical data models, which helps just ensure some of that data integrity. But to your point, any external sources of data, making sure there's bumper rails on that, and then really making sure the data is clean, and that is a important part of any ERP conversion. I know you guys are going to talk about lessons learned and how to best prepare for an ERP implementation, but we all know data is the source of challenges with your old system and will be challenges with your new system if it's not cleaned up. So we're even hearing more how important data is going to be going forward with AI. We had the economist come in earlier and share a little bit about what's happening from a market perspective, industry perspective, metrics. He's been pretty much in all the sessions today. And I think depending on what sector you are in the manufacturing space, clearly we've seen that PMI, below 50% for a while, which traditionally does mean manufacturers contracting or, not in a growth mode. There are certainly areas that are growing, which is great to see, but that's one of the things that's, I think, incredible about the manufacturing sector, especially here in the United States, is the resilience. We still see incredible amount of investment even when the market is down. So maybe just some thoughts around that. All of the companies here are entertaining a fairly large project to basically consider a new ERP system, maybe pros and cons, or what you may be experienced during your time during the pandemic, which also should have been a time of people maybe not doing business or not making big changes, and yet we saw the opposite. So let's start with you and maybe just give us some background there.
I think certainly when business turns down, it's an opportunity to be successful in your ERP implementation, to be successful in your AI implementation. If you get to that point, you really need to have your best people dedicated to doing the setup, the configuration, the model descriptions. And when things are slow, maybe they have more of an opportunity to dedicate themselves to the new project. So I think, and that's what happened in COVID. Definitely during COVID, our selection business went crazy. Even though we were retrenching and closed our office, it ended up being a real thing because people had an opportunity and they took the opportunity to take the resources and apply them because it is cyclical. It will come back. And you need to be ready when the market does come back.
Jonathan?
I agree with Alan. I mean, it's an opportunity. You're looking at making a long-term investment. You're going to spend the funds one way or another. The good thing about pursuing the project when it's slow is you have an opportunity to reflect on the business. You have an opportunity to reflect on your business model and the business process, as opposed to perhaps rushing or having people on the core team being pulled in multiple directions, working very long days.
Eric?
And I'd say, I agree with what these guys said. I'd say for most people in the room, I assume there's probably never really a good time to go through a digital transformation. I mean, if it's not now, then it's going to get too busy later and something else will happen in the economy. And there's always a reason not to do it. And I think it can be also a little bit overwhelming. You come to a conference like this, you learn so much stuff. And I've learned a lot in the sessions I've been in, but I've missed more sessions than I've been to just because there's so many of them. And it can be overwhelming, but I think it's important not to get overwhelmed and take a step back and look at, what is your long-term digital strategy? What is it you want to get to? And then step back and say, we don't have to do that overnight. You don't have to do this massive, big bang, high-risk project. You can say, this is our future state. This is where we want to get to. Now let's break it off into chunks and have different phases and milestones and stage gates. And a lot of times that's just more palatable to organizations, especially if you're risk adverse or if you've got a risk adverse executive team. That's okay. Don't try to change your culture right away. Just do what fits your business. And so I think having a long-term vision and a future state in place, but then backing up and doing things more incrementally can be a really high-value way to overcome some of the uncertainty in the market right now.
Really good insight. Epicor is sort of going through our own ERP transformation, even though we're not manufacturers, so we don't use traditional ERP. We are in the middle of, we just went live with a brand new quote-to-cash system. So for us, that is our version of ERP. So everything that we do to work with you, to provide a quote to you from our sales team, to configure that quote for the products you need, for whether you're going cloud or you're going enterprise cloud or running it on premise, and the statement of work that our services team, all of that is basically, we just went live with a brand new system that automates all of that process all the way through then booking that order if you do choose Epicor, and then all the way through the delivery of that contract for the life cycle. So if you sign a 5 or 10 year contract with us, that whole document, living document, breathing document, if you will, is what we just transformed. And we went live 2 months ago, and we're having our fair share of implementation challenges and the normal things. So if any of you are still waiting on a quote for us, come see me. I do apologize. We've just we have had some training and some traditional things with just the change management, I think, of asking our entire sales and services team to learn a brand new system. So I think we can certainly relate, but I you guys are the experts, right? So just given the number of implementations that you've been through, I think it'd be great to give this audience any advice you have just around not maybe so much the selection process, but really advice for them as they start their project on lessons learned, how to make it successful for a successful go live and then post go live as well.
Well, I'd say, first of all, like I said before, the incremental, having a deliberate approach and pace that you go at, I think is important. I also think, that we have a big selection business too, and it may sound strange to hear me say this, but if you don't need to go through an extensive selection process, or if you're a legacy Epicor user, which I know most of you are not, but if you are a legacy Epicor user, or if you're leaning pretty heavily towards a product, whether it's Epicor or anything else, don't overthink it, because you're never going to get that perfect answer that you're looking for. And we see a lot of companies that just overanalyze the selection phase, and then that's time and money you could be investing in just getting the implementation right. So I don't want to say rush it, but I'd rather see a company that gets pretty close to where they need to be with their selection, but then they double down on the implementation, because that company is always going to do better and be more successful than the one that overthinks the selection, and suddenly you've lost 6 months, 9 months because you spent so much time getting the perfect answer that you still never found. And then now you've got less time to implement. Now you're rushed. Now the economy picks up and you don't have the resources. So I think just recognizing that, not overthinking it, is important.
Yeah, Epicor's experience with some of the post-go-live challenges is something you're going to expect. I mean, every project rides the emotional curve with its ups and its downs, and it's not whether you can make it perfect and avoid them, it's how you manage them. And so as you go through your implementation, it's important to maybe keep the highs a little bit lower, because the higher you are, the further you fall, but you're gonna come out of it, and your business is going to be so much stronger for it as you climb that emotional curve and work towards continuous improvement. And I think Eric alluded to it before, you're going to go live, and that's really the start of the journey. And with the release cadence in the cloud and the new functionality and all of the great opportunities with AI, you have to think about having a strong continuous improvement strategy here, and making sure you've got a structure in place to raise up business cases for real business value driving initiatives, so you can separate the wheat from the chaff and continuously evolve your business.
I think you're all very fortunate in that you're in the selection process at a demarcation point in ERP. The advent of BI, we've had a few of it, but really now AI is going to be a paradigm shift in what ERP systems can do for you. And coming in here and seeing Epicor, seeing how they are looking ahead and it's in the product roadmap, that's really fortunate for you, because companies who already made a selection the last year or the two, it's going to be a much tougher road to get to where they need to be. So this is a really good time to be in the selection process, to have a company with a product roadmap that you believe in. And of course, every project has its challenges, so it's really important to have a good cultural fit with whoever your vendor is, to make sure, because you're going to have to work together, you're going to have to fight together, and you're going to have to make up together. So make sure that you have that good cultural fit.
Great. And I think, I just wanted to really thank our panel. We really do believe that customers that take the time, do the due diligence, in many cases have used a selection consultant or assistance from them, are better buyers, right? They're more aware of what they're looking for. They've got a good sense of their product requirements. And frankly, for us as a provider, when we are ready to sit down and really work on that project implementation, whether that's solely Epicor or we're using an implementation partner as well, we do a much better job delivering, the more that we understand the requirements to start. So I think that is all part of a really successful project. I know for us also, the projects that I'm involved in, having executive sponsorship is key. Obviously, you're here, which means someone is either here with you or supported you attending this, and I think that's really important. We believe in that, so if your executives need more interaction with our executive team, we are 100% behind that. We are very involved not just in the selection process, but after a project starts, we find that attending those steering committee meetings, being involved in those quarterly reviews, and potentially even helping messaging with your board of directors or private equity company if you are owned by private equity. All of those are really important projects because as you're going through this process, you're starting a relationship with a partner that is going to last for a long period of time. And the more we work together closely, set expectations together, those are the things that we've really seen help strengthen the relationship. So I just wanted to thank all of you for attending the conference. We're really excited to have you here. Our team will be here if you have any further questions. And again, if you've got questions about due diligence, selection, please get a chance to come talk to our esteemed guests. Also project management, because I think that's an important element that many of our companies also offer.